Monday. Hello, Arpin.
It's good to me. Yeah. Hello. Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
How you
It's
doing?
Monday. I'm good. We have like actual Canadian stuff to talk about on our Canadians podcast. So that's fun. Trying to get back into the swing of NHL action. Made the trip to Ottawa, even though I had told myself when I was in the midst of Four Nations that I am not going to make the trip to Ottawa. I will not go. I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
But
I must have played well at home.
I'm sorry?
That must
have
have
played well at home.
home.
Yeah, exactly. I think the wife was actually understanding. You know, I kind of was like, I haven't written about the Canadians in a couple of weeks. I've been all caught up and I haven't been at practice all week. Feel like I should go, and she understood. So, that's why I have a very understanding wife, which is why I'm still married. So that's a good
perfect.
thing. Yeah. But the trip to Ottawa was worth it, because we saw getting to see live just how Juraj Slafkovsky behaved in that game, some of the stuff he did off camera, so some of the stuff he did kind of behind the play, and he just seemed to have a mindset that was different. So we're gonna talk about that today, but all sorts of other things we need to get to. Kirby Dach is going to miss the game on Tuesday. We're going to talk about that. It's 11 days, 5 games away from trade deadline. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And obviously we have the mailbag, but we should start with Slav.
Yeah, and so we discussed it at length on a Friday episode, but I feel like it's a development there because I don't know to which extent him comparing himself to Brady Tkachuk was necessarily the right thing, because we were talking from probably a personality and mental standpoint. There's a level of obnoxiousness from Brady Tkachuk that I don't see coming spontaneously to Slav. But after practice on Monday, he says that he wants to play angry on a regular basis.
He said that after the game.
Yeah.
He said that. Yeah. He didn't just say it after practice. He said that right after the game. Got to be angry all the time.
What a way to live.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think he's, this is the thing with Slav is that, so I talked to him and we talked about it on the podcast, right before the break. And I was like, "Are you going away?" He's like, "Yeah, we're going down south. We're going somewhere warm." It's weird how none of the guys really wanted to divulge where exactly they were going. I don't know if they thought like this legion of Canadians fans were going to like descend on, I don't know, the Bahamas or like Barbados or something and try and track them down. But anyhow, he's like, this is going to be a good break to sort of think about what's been going wrong. And I'm like, okay, so it's not going to be a break at all. Like you're not going down there to unplug from hockey. He's like, no, I'm going to be somewhere warm, but I'm going to think about, I have a lot of stuff to think about. What's happened this season, what I can change, how I can change my preparation, how I can change all sorts of things. And sure enough, for a week, he went down south and thought about that. He was sitting on a beach thinking about what he can do differently. And what he came up with was got to be angry all the time. And it showed against Ottawa. It's a shame Tkachuk wasn't in that game because that would have been a great little back and forth between the two of them if he's actually trying to play like him, which frankly he was. I mean, the play that sticks out to me is not the fight. It's the fact that right before Cole Caulfield scored his goal, Jake Sanders, that was actually a defensive zone faceoff for the Senators that they won. They went back behind the net. Sanderson went to go collect it. And next thing you know, boom, Juraj Slafkovsky is on him, crunched him. Probably didn't make the exit he would have liked because he had to rush it a little bit. And one thing leads to another. Eventually winds up with Cole Caulfield scoring. And so that happened again. I think it was Clevin who just got destroyed behind the net by Slafkovsky. And it was just repeated itself over and over throughout the game. And we were talking about, and you just mentioned it's not in his nature to be that way, but you know, being successful can be like a drug, right? Like that could be what triggers the desire to be a way that maybe you're not naturally. And but I think even more than that was the reaction from his teammates.
Yeah.
How excited his teammates were that he played that way. And it's one thing to hear your coach say it, it's one thing to hear your general manager say it. It's one thing for you to tell yourself that, but what Josh Anderson said after the game and giving him the sort of the player of the game glasses that they give, what Nick Suzuki said after the game to reporters, what Cole Caulfield said after the game, those are the guys whose validation he needs more than anything else. And he said it. My teammates expect me to play the same way on Tuesday, so now I have to go out and do it. That's going to be the key here is if he generates it, if he doesn't, we were questioning, and I think rightfully, his ability to self-generate that. And it's also difficult to get it from someone who's in a position of authority for it to be organic, but it can organically come within you if you feel like you're letting your teammates down if you don't do that. And that's kind of the sense. I think that's the difference I heard from Juraj on Saturday, is that he really got the impression that his teammates will be disappointed if he doesn't play that way. And that was further validated by something I don't think I had ever seen. I often make Goodfellas references. I apologize, but so when Henry Hill gets married and they have the wedding, and all of a sudden Paulie comes and gives the envelope with the cash, and they're putting him in the bag, and then all of a sudden there's this lineup of people, all with envelopes full of cash for the gifts.
Yeah.
That was the scene at the penalty box after Juraj Slafkovsky caught club fighting.
Yes.
That is
Absolutely.
Is that I don't remember who the first one was, but whoever it was, they went up, gave him a fist bump, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, basically the whole team is lined up at the penalty box to go give Slafkovsky a fist bump. And the Canadians put out the video of Arbor Jackai's reaction. Obviously, he's going to be the most excited, but it was every guy, one by one, going to the box, reaching over to give Slafkovsky a fist bump, basically to give him an envelope full of cash.
If one day one of our listener comes up with a bingo card of our podcast, Arpin's Goodfellas reference is going to be on that bingo card.
Oh yeah, 100%. I can't help myself. I mean, I saw that happening. It was during a television timeout, right? So I mean, people couldn't see it live, but I saw it happening, and that's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, it's the wedding in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but that's the type of validation that a guy can really latch onto and can be like, okay, if I'm this way, not only will I be an effective player, but my teammates will appreciate me even more.
And it's also, I think that it's also trying to find what works for you. And if he plays that way long enough and sees the dividends long enough, it will come more and more naturally because he'll be drawn to what works. And I went back to what Nick Barbroff said when they drafted Slafkovsky, both at the draft, but also in the meetings that were shown, after the draft. Obviously, they're scouting meetings before the draft about Slafkovsky, just to compare, because Marty's been talking about playing to his identity, and honestly, they never portrayed Slafkovsky as a Brady Tkachuk type of player. So it got me thinking, well, do they mold his identity just based on the fact that he's big and he can play that game? Or is it something that they had identified beforehand? And where I feel like the two connect is that Nick Barbroff said he has the personality to want to take the bull by the horn. He wants to own the moment. He wants to own the situation. And he says that it's more than just a skill. It's a hockey skill. He just has that personality trait to want to own the stage. So he's extremely demanding of himself, and he sees himself as a guy who can be a difference maker, and that's why he sets the bar so high. But I think that the fact that he wants to step up on the big stage, he's going to try to find any way to accomplish that. And if it means adjusting his mindset so that he plays angrily and he plays with that fury on a consistent basis, because that's what brings him success. That's how it's going to be. I think that it's a challenging task to ask yourself that. But if he can play on a regular basis the way that he played on Saturday against Ottawa, man, it's almost like a different player.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that he is wired for, like he's wired to be the best, right? Like he has always considered himself the best. He's the best player from his country. He was, he's long been seen as the next great Slovak star. He's treated that way in his home country. And so more than any other nature sort of argument that you can make, because he doesn't have that abrasive nature to him, the way he plays. And he does consider himself more of a skill player than just a big player. But that part of it is he is wired for that he should not just be another player, that he is a deserving number one overall pick and not just a number one overall pick because it was a poor draft year and whatever. He believes in his heart that he is going to be one of the best players in the world eventually. Whether he's right or wrong, that's what he truly believes. And if this is a path to that, then that's something that I think will resonate with him, in the sense that, like, that's what drives him, is to be the best.
Yeah.
That's why he's so hard on himself when he's not the best version of himself, and that's why he's so hard on himself when the results don't come. And so if he can start tacking on these games, but most importantly, if he can keep that mindset, carry it over the summer, and arrive in training camp next year knowing that that's what he has to do to be the best version of himself and to be, frankly, on the path to being one of the top wingers in the NHL, if he makes that happen, then that's the big win here. And if we can look back at that game in Ottawa as being a turning point in his development in that sense, or look at his week in whatever beach that he spent that weekend as being the turning point for him, then that's gonna change a lot for him and for the Canadians. Like if we put this to bed now and we never have to hear anyone talk about him playing to his strengths and him using his size and this and that, then you could turn that page, and then you have the player that you had on Saturday in Ottawa on a regular basis, and you've checked a major box, and you have a legit top line power forward winger who's a very rare commodity in the NHL.
Yeah. Do you think that it's either a tendency or there's a risk from NHL coaches to look at any big player who's got skill and say, because you have the frame that you have to integrate the physical component
100%
to your game and become more of the power guy, and that there's a risk that it might come at the expense of your skill. It's like, fine, you got your skill, but focus on the fact that you've got that size advantage, because it would be unfortunate, I find, that if there is enough soft skills in Uri's game, that he would sort of not abandon it, but putting a little bit on a back burner and showcase more and use more his physical, dare I say it, superiority.